Call the Board of Public Works of February 13th to order. Roll call.
Gill's here.
Marshall here.
Guzikowski here.
Zarnecki here.
Cheaper here. Sligali here.
So forcefully, Bob.
Approval of minutes from 120, 1/9/24. Any changes or corrections?
Sligali moves to approve the minutes from January 9th, 2024.
Zarnecki will second.
Roll call.
Gill, aye.
Marshall abstain.
Guzikowski, aye.
Zarnecki, aye.
Sligali, aye.
Informational. The review of common council actions, is that?
Yeah, I'll take that one, Chris.
Okay, thank
Thanks.
you.
Just a few items for the board's awareness. So at the January 16th meeting, Common Council approved the purchase of 49 sets of structural firefighter turnout gear. So something we replace every 5 years. Total cost about $158,000. It was included in our capital improvement program. And then at our last council meeting on February 6th, there were really two items for the board's awareness. We did have a dedication and release of our Creekside Crossing Marketplace Developer Agreement. So all those public improvements kind of the south of IKEA. So we accepted those at that meeting, all those public improvements. And then lastly, did approve about $180,000 for a new air-cooled chiller at the police department building. It's about a 20-year facility. The chiller lasts about 20 years. And again, this was an item that was included in our 2024 capital improvement program. Happy to answer any questions.
All good? Are we good? Anyone have questions or comments? All right. Thank you. Let's move on to 5. Motion to consider and to approve a purchase of networking equipment and software from Software One Technology in the amount of $124,864.51.
Good morning, members of the board. Tom Kramer, IT Director. This request is part of our capital improvement fund request from this year to replace our core network, which has been in place since 2015. So it's getting about time to replace it. We're trying to get a little bit earlier. It's a 10-year, but due to supply chain and the time that it's going to take to configure it, we're trying to get a little bit earlier. And ironically, we just had an issue with the core last week on Friday, which caused about 3 hours of downtime. So the sooner the better.
Yeah. Sounds like it's needed. Comments or questions?
I guess one question I would have, it seems like there's been a lot of IT infrastructure investment here over the last year. Is that just due to a lot of the equipment kind of coming to its useful life at the same time? Or are these going to be kind of typical yearly expenses that we're going to see?
Sure, yeah, this is one of our larger purchases on the hardware side. That's just because we're hitting 10 years in this building. The lifespan of most of this equipment is between 5 and 7 years. The network equipment is about 10 years. So this is probably going to be the most highest point, and we're going to kind of taper off again, but next year will be a request for networking switching. That should be another high purchase, but then we should kind of come down from there.
Any other questions or comments? Motion then.
Marshall moved to approve the purchase of networking equipment and software from Source One Technology in the amount of $124,864.51.
Gill, second.
Roll call.
Gill, aye.
Marshall, aye.
Guzikowski, aye.
Zarnecki, aye.
Sligali, aye.
Number 6, consider a motion to approve the purchase of 6 copiers in the amount of $19,832.26 from Rhyme. Is that Rhyme?
Yep. Good morning again. So these are just copiers return and replace. They are all at 10 years as well, throughout the city. 3 within City Hall, 3 at PD. These are just to replace those, and these per page costs are actually lower than what we're currently paying now. So we'll actually save some money in the long run over time. But Rhyme came in the cheapest due to its per page cost versus our other vendor, Gordon, which the hardware is cheaper, but the per page costs were higher. So we'll see about a 3-year difference going between Rhyme and Gordon. So any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, why don't we lease them, I'm sorry. We used to lease the copiers, now we're buying them.
We do purchase only because it's cheaper in the long run since we run them for the 10 years. For the most part, we have had not many issues running them for the entire 10 years. Some of them actually past that. We make a break even about year 7, year 6 with that. So we save a little bit of money in the long run, but.
My only question was where they all went, where they were distributed to, and you mentioned 3 were here and then 3 at the PD, so thank you. Any other comments or questions? We need a motion on that then.
Zarnicki will make a motion to approve the purchase of 6 copiers in the amount of $19,832.26 from Rhyme.
Golly seconds.
Roll call.
Gale, aye.
Marshall, I.
Guzekowski, aye.
Zarnicki, aye.
Golly, aye.
Righty. Number 7, consider a motion to approve fire station number 3 interior painting project in the amount of $14,910. Hello, Chief.
Good morning, all. Assistant Chief Mike Havey with Fire. Chief Kressig's out of town, so I'm here representing the fire department. As you can see in the background, so Fire Station 3, it's our headquarters. We've commissioned it in 2024. Through the years, we've done some remodeling projects, a dorm remodel project several years ago, some carpeting. So over the last few years, we suffered some mechanical issues that caused some damage in our dispatch, or our old dispatch area. So we believe that it was time to refresh the entire building with some paint and update it. Now, we host a lot of meetings there. Trainings, so it's it's our headquarters, so it's a focal point of the department. So we have a lot of guests and tours. So we believe now it's time to freshen up the interior of the building.
Comments or questions there? Makes sense to me. If not, any other questions or comments? It's motion then.
Thanks, Mike. Gale will move to approve Fire Station 3 interior painting project in the amount of $14,910.
Marshall, second.
Roll call.
Gale, aye.
Marshall, I.
Guzekowski, aye.
Zarnicki, aye.
Golly, aye.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All righty. Number 8, consider a motion to approve the sanitary sewer of West Elm Road petition.
Morning.
Hello, sir.
Ray
How
Johnson,
are you?
Utility engineer here. So we had a petition come in for failed septic systems along Elm Road. There's 7 residents along this stretch of road, and 4 of the residents signed the petition for this request. It is for sanitary and water. Water will be the next one that we talk about. This is not as straightforward as we would hope it would be. To get sewer to these properties, we have 2 options. The first option is to come across the PPG property. It's a deeper sewer that comes across there. That would be a manufacturing portion there, so that would be a 12-inch sewer that comes across the PPG property and then extend west from 13th Street with an 8-inch sewer to serve these homes. The other option is to extend down 13th Street from the sewer that's on about 1,500 feet north of Elm Road, extend that south with an 8-inch line, and then bring it over to serve the homes. The issue we have with that route is that the sewer doesn't have the depth to serve the basement. So they'd end up with either a grinder pump system or hung sewers in the homes along 13th Street. Also, the cost estimate that we came up with, you're within a couple $100,000 of each other, mainly because it's a shorter length with the second option, but you're going to have more pavement restoration coming down 13th Street and then dealing with the county on that side and then coming down Elm Road. So it's not a huge savings to bring it that route. So option one is what we would recommend, going through PPG. We'd have to acquire an easement from PPG to come through there. That is a deep sewer. It's going to be expensive to make that connection to that existing sewer and extend it on over. Our estimate was $1.3 million to extend that over. We have a kind of a breakdown based on our footage costs or what the special assessment would be. And these are some pretty significant costs. So property owners have not seen these at this time yet. So what we're looking at today is just a approval to move forward with a design. Once we get a design, then we'd have a public hearing and further these numbers and see where we need to go. I believe we do have one resident that's here as well, that initiated the petition, so we can have him speak as well. Our recommendation is to approve this to move it forward, but we'll let the resident speak as well.
Brian, sorry. Yeah. This board has not actually seen a petition for service. So what are the considerations you typically historically looked at? Because I understand this was done back in 2004, 5, maybe once before in this area.
It was done before. It did not move forward at that time. Typically, it's looked at, is it favorable for the utility to extend that sewer? Like we have in here, this is going to be a loss for the sewer. Rough numbers, it's about $22,000 loss for the utility for the next 20 years to extend this sewer over there. You're not making the rates by extending this over, and $1.3 million is a lot of money to run this sewer. The other thing to point out, we don't have any budget set aside for this, so the limited sewer budget that we have is the best place to spend that money to do this work. In the past, if there is a public health safety concern, that has always trumped money. Residents have stated that they do have failed septics in this area. So we don't have any reports, no inspections by a third party that have been done on this, but the residents state we do have sewage in the backyards, so that is an issue that we need to consider.
Right, and the utilities obligation here is there any definitive obligation, or what are the circumstances around that decision?
No. There is an opportunity that they could put in a mound system or a new septic system, whatever works for their area, and the homeowner takes care of that themselves. It's not an obligation that the utility has to serve this property.
Is it likely this, on the west side of the freeway, would that area be served by an extension of this sewer, or would it be served by something south on 27th?
Everything west would be served off of 27th Street. There is a future MMSD MIS sewer that is proposed to go down 27th. That would serve everything west of the freeway.
Are there any other areas in this that could potentially be served off of this eventually? I mean, there's land over there.
There's a lot of land over there, but it's all owned by PPG, and
they're never going to sell it.
Historically have not issued the sell.
So
it's taking care of these 7 homes.
So the question then becomes, why does the utility need to take a loss? Why isn't it assessed to the homes? The whole amount?
Historically, that's not how we've done it. We've based it off of our rates that we have set in the ordinance, and it's per linear foot. I'm with you of why that's never been done, but as a utility, that's not something that has been done in the past. At the engineering city level for a road project, yes, 100% of it is special assessed. But roughly 37% of this project will be funded by the utility.
And Brian, the assessment is done on the linear footage of the pipe in front of the person's lot, or along the person's lot.
Correct.
Even though here, this situation, there's a big gap between where you start and where you actually begin surveying.
Yes. And, you know, on top of that, it is dealing with PPG. We have a big stretch across PPG property that we'll have to get an easement from them. That's an extra cost.
PPG will not be assessed for that, or will it?
They are assessed here with this project, but we'll have to negotiate with them to get that easement across their property.
Assuming you use option
Yes. And
option 2
they're-
seems to be non-starter almost.
Pretty much, yes. I think it's about $500,000 is what the assessment would be against PPG.
Has there been conversations with PPG?
No, we have not had any conversations yet with them.
So that could be a non-starter.
Could be an issue.
Bob, any thoughts?
You've hit exactly on the thoughts I had. The assessment for PPG for both the sewer and the water that really does not benefit them in any way.
Well, I've seen that before where people get assessed for stuff that
I mean, it's
doesn't directly benefit them. It's just part of the way the utilities and those things are done.
somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million.
Yeah.
And it's, the utility looks at it that it's not just what the use is on the property today. It benefits that land to have that access to the sewer. But the way PPG is using that land right now, it's a tough one for them to say, yeah, that's a benefit.
No,
for
I
them.
get it.
Well, they may or may not be there forever, but you never know. So,
Correct.
But the other side of the coin is the safety, the community safety to the residents.
Yes.
I'm not sure how you weigh that, but because I've only seen, maybe in the 15 years I've been doing this, I think I've seen 2 of these. One for sure.
Was one on?
County Line and Becker, 10th Avenue was the last one I remember coming before the board. That's a long time ago.
And as a resident, I'd want to look at it too, of what makes most sense for me. Personal opinion here, I would much rather have a city service than a septic. But if I'm looking at $40,000 for city services and $20,000 to put in my own septic, tough to say I'm going to spend that money too. So, and those questions would come out in the public hearing that we have at council. That's when we notify all the residents and have a discussion like that.
So Brian, this motion here is to approve the, you stated as there's a second meeting to actually approve the plan. So this would authorize you to go through a design phase?
Yes. So that would get things kicked off once we have a design. We have a public hearing at council, and then that's when the residents get to speak. And
You'd have cost estimates for each resident?
Correct.
And the final estimated costs?
the cost estimates for the residents are going to be the same as what they're shown here,
Oh, yeah,
because
the
it's
linear
based
footage is fixed, right?
per linear foot. The difference would be we would fine tune what the actual design cost would be over my ballpark numbers that I have in here today. So once we actually get into the design and see what we need to do with it.
Brian, how many residents are affected by this?
It's 7 homes.
7 homes.
Do all, oh, I'm sorry. Do all 7 have to agree?
No.
How does that work?
One person can bring the petition. And some will disagree. At least they have, that I saw. And they whatever is the majority opinion.
But 4 have signed, if I understand this correctly. So
Correct.
the majority are likely in favor of an extension.
Yes. Yeah, and then we come down to the council decision on it
But
as
they
well.
also haven't seen the assessed cost yet.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And then you have the PPG issue in there as well.
Yes.
I don't know, you've been maybe not even at this long enough to know, but historically, what have we done where, especially where there's septic is an issue? And there's a couple, Elm Road on East Side of Nicholson's an issue. Those folks never petitioned for service.
Yeah. Fitzsimmons is another area that has issues that has never been petitioned. We did extend water down there, but not sewer. And most of it is just depth of the sewer too. We can't get to it. So, but that's another area that is a known area of issues.
Is this indicative of the fact that we should be looking at assessment rates if we're only recovering 50% of our investment here? Or is it just depth that's driving the cost?
It's a struggle because of how the costs have grown in the past few years. It's been tough to push that off onto a homeowner that needs something. The utility has felt that we can kind of share that cost with them, with the benefit to the utility as well as the residents. Our assessment rates right now are pretty much paying for the pipe. And that's just the costs have grown so much in the past few years.
You know, we look at these as one-offs because it doesn't happen very often, but 20 years ago or 30 years ago, this was a regular occurrence, right?
Correct.
Were you extending service to parts of the city that hadn't previously been served?
Correct.
It's just that this is not, the city's built out residentially.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, if we vote in favor of this, the utility would go through the process of doing an actual formal design and taking it for the public hearing and common council for final approval. But if it is denied here, the recourse for these 9 properties would be to put in private septic, holding tanks, whatever it might be, and continue to be on well.
Correct.
Okay. And that is a viable alternative?
That is a viable alternative.
Okay. So is the public hearing back at this body or at common council?
It'd be a council.
What do you need for design?
For design would be, well,
I'm asking, sorry.
No,
Just
that's a good
budget.
question.
budget-wise,
Yeah, if we say yes, go forward with design to come up with those actual construction estimates. What is the ask today, really, is what
Yeah.
you're asking for?
I would guess it's about $50,000 to do the survey and the design.
For both the sewer and the water?
Yes,
You guys outsourcing that or doing that in-house?
it'd be outsourced.
I guess from my opinion, the most important part is the PPG negotiation, because if I'm sitting on their side, it's going to cost the same or more than my assessment will be for you to obtain that easement. So that continues to inflate the cost and make it more cost prohibitive for the remaining residents of Kenosha. That's just
Or Oak Creek.
I am sorry. I've been accustomed to saying that so much. I apologize. Oak Creek, yes.
Yes.
If we could charge it to Kenosha, we would do that.
Awesome, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
especially with this, what is, with a public utility, what is, when, if push comes to shove, is that a public use, eminent domain at that point if you need to, or is this a friendly negotiation?
This would be a friendly negotiation. That way, I would not see this going to eminent domain for this.
I'm concerned about authorizing to do design work when we haven't reached out to PPG yet. I hate to say that, but I really feel that without talking to them at this point, because the easement would have to be obtained. They couldn't be forced into an easement. They could be forced into the assessment, but they can't be forced into the easement.
And like Kurt suggested as well, it could just be that their assessment cost is their easement cost. So there's $500,000 that just goes to utility to run that over.
I think this is a premature ask.
We can certainly hold for some more information. But if the resident want to talk a little bit?
Yeah, come on up.
Need your name and address.
Good morning. Jerome Wendelberger, 1501 West Elm Road. Members,
Hello.
I moved in 8 months ago. I bought the property a little over a year ago. Initially, I was told that my septic may be failing, but they weren't positive. And that seems to be all 7 properties. with the exception of one directly across the street from me, which has a mound system. That was part of her sale a few years ago, they put in a mound system before. Yes, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for me or the rest of the residents that all have failing systems. 4 of us signed the petition. One of the properties has a brand new mound system, won't sign for obvious reasons. She doesn't need it anymore. She may in another 7 years, because that mound system is designed, I believe they say 10 to 15 year lifespan for that mound system. So there's her, and then there's one more guy that doesn't have a lot of money, and so he doesn't care one way or the other, but he'd rather not spend the money. He's not going to spend the money on a mound system either until he's forced to, and I don't know if anybody's going to be forced to, because again, I'm new there, but most of the residents have been there quite a while and have been struggling with septic systems that are failing and have been failing for years. The woman across the street has been there forever. She built her home there with her husband. I believe she said 1976, and at that time she was told that they would be putting in sewer and water very soon, 1976. They put the plumbing in the basement, run to the front of the house, so as soon as the city of Oak Creek puts in the sewer and water, they can hook right up to it, flush their toilets, and it goes away like most residents in larger cities expect. I'm a city boy. I knew nothing about septic. And here we're talking about septic. I knew nothing about septic when I moved in. I know a lot about it now. I have been told by the residents on that street, do whatever you can to keep the system you have. You don't want a mound system. It kind of comes to light when I watch the woman across the street who's got this huge, ugly hill in her, I don't know what it is, 6 feet, 7 feet high, in the whole front of her house. And up she goes with the tractor, down she goes and cuts the heck out of the grass. Minor thing, but do we all want that on the street? I know I don't. I'm not sure if even mound systems are going to work for that whole area, because I've been told that the clay soil is horrible and it may not perk anyways. That is going to be, to me, money-wise, the mound system, if I was to do that, would probably be the same as the assessment-ish. I'm probably looking at $25,000 to $30,000 to get a mound system. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is the stink, and I've got to do, I'm learning to live with it because this may be my reality. So I'm going to get some landscaping done in my backyard to try to get as much water away from the mound system as possible. So when it rains, I don't have to worry that my house is going to stink, that I could get backups into the house. Donna across the street, who was told that in 1976 she would be getting sewer, has since realized that ain't happening. So right now she just doesn't do laundry when it rains, and she doesn't take showers when it rains. And I don't even know. She may even tell the grandkids, make sure you use the bathroom at Quick Trip before you come to the house, because you can't use the toilet. It's raining. The snow's melting. So it is a very big inconvenience, to say the least, and it is a health hazard. I'm not saying anything about who's doing what on that block, but I know that everybody is doing something to make their system continue to work. Again, I'm not by any means an expert at this. I'm a city boy. I flush the toilet. It goes to Lake Michigan, whatever it does. Right now, I don't know what it's doing. I honestly don't know where most of the people's water is going, onto the farmland, into their backyards, bubbling up, stinking. It's definitely a health hazard. To me, the money isn't the issue. I just don't want that. I don't want to live like that. And it is, I don't know if everybody here, if anybody has a septic system or ever has. If they're working, I imagine they're great. My septic system my house was built in 1966. That's when they put the septic system in. So it's been there quite a few years. Again, I don't know the whole thing with PPG. I have no idea what they can do, what they're gonna do, but I'm hoping that the things that I'm doing to make the water go away right now is going to get me by, during this process. And I'm just hoping the process starts. If the process doesn't start, we'll see what the landscaping does, and then I'll have to get perk tested, which I've gone through the whole winter because they can't even do that until springtime to even let me know if I can have a mound system or not. So I don't even know yet if I can have a mound system or not. I would imagine I can. I mean, I don't know the other options other than this. And again, I realize it's a lot of money. It's going to be a lot of money for me either way. The other residents would rather have the convenience. From what I've talked to, the ones that I've talked to, would much rather have the convenience of flushing their toilet and having the bad stuff go away instead of doing some of the things that we've all been doing now. And I've been doing it for such a short time, but it's horrible. I have a 14-year-old boy, and my concern is that he's taking in sewer gases into the house. You know, it's a slight odor. I'm old. I can't smell him that good anymore. But he'll be like, Dad, what's that stink? I'm like, it's raining, buddy. That means it's just the gases. And I guess it's kind of normal. It's country living. It's farm living. You know, when it rains and it pushes the water, and the water comes back into the big tank that holds all the poop, and then that gas has to go somewhere. I didn't design the system. I'm not in favor of the system. So I'm just hoping that we at least consider a different avenue than the way we're going right now. Again, to me, you know, if I knew this wasn't going to happen today, I would, as soon as spring, as soon as they can do it, I would hire somebody and check on the mound system, because my system has to be changed. I don't like living like this. And again, Donna, in fact, I was told by a couple of the residents that signed the paper, Donna specifically, that this was somebody tried to do this 15 years or so ago, and she said, yeah, we signed the petition, we were all feeling good, and I don't know what happened. That was 15 years ago. So that was in, I don't know, guessing, like 2005-ish?
4 or 5, somewhere there. I don't recall, yeah.
And then 76 is when they told her she was going to get the sewer. So she might be pushing up daisies before she's able to flush her toilet and wash her poop.
Brian, Jerome, too, the other side of this coin, too, is we get it to the front of the house, but obviously there's cost to install laterals and stuff like that, too. So.
That's
Correct.
on here.
Yeah, with this project, we get the lateral to the property line. The homeowner would then have to take that from the property line into their home and make that connection. So there's another cost on top of this cost that they would need to do. The ordinance also states that once it is available, residents have 1 year to make that connection.
And it's their choice, but they're going to get assessed.
Yes.
Because I know on 10th Avenue, some folks didn't connect. But we helped, I think, organize a company to do the laterals in Mass.
I don't recall that one.
I thought we had gave them a choice of a couple different companies that we had come across. So. Anyway.
Sorry, just one more thing. Maybe, and I agree with Ms. Marshall, that maybe PPG should be approached and see what their feeling is, because from my understanding, they've usually worked pretty good with the residents across the street from them, because I don't know why. They're a big company and they don't want anybody mad at them. Right? So I would agree it's kind of crazy to spend $50,000 if you can't go ahead with it anyways. But in option 2, I think I heard that you could go ahead no matter what PPG says. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so they're going to pay one way or the other. One way is going to be nice and the other is going to be, they're going to be forced.
Option 2 would mean that there's hung sewers or grinder pumps.
Not sure if you know what that is.
Pardon?
A grinder pump is probably not a real handy solution to your problem.
No. So if you have a basement toilet, that becomes an issue, because your sewer is going to be higher than what that toilet is.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
To be clear, I don't want to say that I'm not in favor of this. I just feel like proceeding with a design phase without talking to PPG first, only because of my extensive experience with them at a very personal level. I just think we need to talk to them first before we authorize any sort of spending for design work ahead of time.
And the reason for pushing this is because it is such a long process to get it done. To try and get construction this year is trying to push this through, because you're going to have to go through the council and the public hearing and then the approval of the project, 3 months of design, then construction. So
This is
it's
a late fall thing at the best.
yes. So that's just why we're trying to push it now.
That PPG is contacted to find out where they are, and then if that's looking favorable, then the design phase could start, so we're not pushing it back a month. There's no Melissa here, so I'm asking Ken.
We can make the motion for anything.
Yeah,
I mean, that's our obligation.
And I would totally be fine with that.
Yeah.
As to not, and I
You'd
understand the delay.
You'd get utility management discretion to, negotiate with PPG, subject to those outcomes.
Proceed
Choice one or
with
two,
design.
yeah.
I don't even think it requires negotiation at this point. They know what the assessed fees would be. I think it's a simple conversation with them to say, we've got this petition, which will result in an assessment to you for this. We'd rather use this option that will require an easement.
But at this point, they haven't even been contacted.
No, I get
Okay.
that, but what I'm saying is there's not a negotiation that has to occur at this point. It's a discussion to see where they fall in that whole realm of, well, yeah, obviously if it's a $780,000 assessment, that's what the easement's going to cost you, which is kind of a non-starter for us right there and then. Then we know. But there's no need to start playing, back and forth with them. Well, what if we do this, or what if we just get that answered? And if it's a positive, okay, fine, spend the $50,000 on the design. If not, then maybe we look at option 2 and see, how does that work? I guess from the resident standpoint, and I don't know all of the municipal code here for plumbing and stuff like that, but your number one system is typically a normal septic field. I know the clays around here don't accept. They won't perk. They just don't. So next is a mound system. Typically, you can get those to work. It's just how big of a mound are you going to have? Whether it's high or just large. A lot of cost bringing in an extra material to get a large enough system to work. The other option is just a straight holding tank that, every 3 months or so, you're getting the guys out to pump out and bring over to the waste treatment plant. Step up to the mic. I don't know what's acceptable in Oak Creek, but there are other options.
Sorry. I just was wondering of the legalities of a holding tank.
Yeah, I don't know.
I heard that as an option as well, and I wouldn't be opposed to that. That would be, for me, that would be the cheapest option.
Cheapest and cleanest.
If exactly,
Right.
yes, because it goes in, nothing else comes back out, and they come and take it away.
Right.
So, but again, I don't know if that's even legal in the cities.
Neither do I, but that's something that I think, even if it wasn't part of the municipal code, would be something that you could get a variance for based on specific locations, possibly. I don't know.
Yeah, because the variance process is murky at best
Right.
to begin with.
So
I'm not sure, Brian, you have any experience with holding tanks? I don't know if anybody has. I know we're northern Wisconsin, yeah. But
Yeah.
around here, I'm not sure.
Yeah, and they're acceptable. They're all over the place.
Are they?
It is an acceptable use. Do I know anybody that has one that in the city? No, I have not dealt with anybody in the city with one.
Thank you.
And I have a question about MMSD. Is there any question or problem with those people with additional sewers
No, they would not have any issues with that.
Okay, so there's no problem.
No.
Lisa's motion and.
Mm-hmm.
That's the motion, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it is what it is at this point.
Correct.
Make the motion.
I will. I motion to approve the sanitary sewer of the West Elm Road petition subject to contacting PPG and leaving it at the water authority's discretion of how to proceed with the design phase.
With that, Brian?
Yeah, so we'll contact PPG, have a discussion with them, see where they stand before we do any design work on the project
Perfect. And then an update at the next meeting.
at the next meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
So there's a motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Gale, aye.
Marshall, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Zarnicki, aye.
Sigali, aye.
Alrighty.
Okay. The next item. Same area, same petition. This is to extend the water main. So water main is a lot easier. It's coming down from the intersection of 13th and Elm and extending it west to serve the properties.
I'm assuming to get sewer service through the city, you also are obligated to connect to water?
No,
No.
no. It could be we just put in water. And I don't know if the resident has any input on that. If they're interested in just water, if the sewer doesn't go through, or do they want to have the sewer as the big issue and water, if we get sewer, then great, let's move with water as well.
Again, assessments will be almost double then for both sewer and water, and I didn't know if these residents knew what costs they were incurring to get municipal services.
So
Ideally, you do it in the same trench, obviously.
2 trenches.
Separate trenches anyway?
Yeah. They got to be 10 feet apart, so it's
Oh,
2
really?
trenches.
So they don't have to go simultaneously then either?
No.
I would be more apt to approve of the water, simply because if they've got failing septic systems, they're all on wells, the chance of them contaminating the drinking water with their own septic is pretty high. Whereas if we can't do anything for them in respect to the sewers, at least we can provide them with clean, safe water, so they don't have to have that concern of, contaminating their own wells or contaminated wells that already existed.
Yeah.
Come on up.
Still Jerome Wendelberger, 1501 West Elm. So the water was just kind of an afterthought, and after speaking with the residents, several are okay with their wells. It's a huge expense to upgrade to, basically, it seems, again, I don't know anything about him, city boy, turn on the water, water comes out, it tastes really good. Milwaukee water was wonderful. So I'm kind of the opposite of what you're saying. It would be nice not to have sewage around and sewage smell and any of that. The wells get tested. I'm not sure how often yet. I believe it's every year or a couple of years the wells get tested to make sure the water's safe and what's in it. And I don't have a lot of problems. The well water has solutions. Water softener, thing that takes the lead out. Thank you. Iron curtain that you put in the basement. It's cost me $40 a month. That takes any impurities and iron out of my water. My well works. The man next to me told me, oh, the well's fine. And I agree. You know, the well water isn't a huge issue. I didn't know if possibly when you do sewer, that it would be just as easy to bring the water down there at that time, and it makes sense. If it does make sense. To me, they go hand in hand. Obviously, they don't. So the sewer is a huge mound, may I say, and the water is like a little glass, right? In the big scheme of things, I don't know that anybody on that block wants to spend $20,000-$30,000 or whatever it would cost to get water.
Okay, but you signed the petition for the water as well.
Well, yeah, it's sure.
Okay.
I mean, if it happens, it happens. Again, to me, if it happens, it happens. I'll pay for it. The other residents weren't 100% on board with the water. They signed the petition as well. But to me, it's not as big of a deal. The poop is the big deal. The water isn't, because the water works. It's simple to put an iron curtain in your basement. There's a company that does that. They come in and they put a water softener, so now your water is safe for drinking. There's no issues with the water, but we have well water. We're within the city limits. It's an upgrade. It's not 19. It's 2024 right now. You know, when you're in a rural area, you get different services. So, anyways, the well to me is nowhere near as big as the septic. Again, if it's approved, hey, it means I don't have to have a water softener.
You will have cost to hook it up.
I'm sorry?
You will have, not only will you be assessed for your lineage, you'll have cost to hook up a lateral.
Yes, if the water was out in front of my house, if the lateral was out in front of my house, I would have it hooked up. Yes.
Well, it's a bit of a quandary, sure, because I mean, even though we have a petition, it seems like most folks are disinclined to use the water.
Again, I guess the assessment amount would matter to us more with that, you know. So
I guess at this point, maybe the plan is we've already approved the motion to speak with PPG and make a determination whether we move forward with the design for the sewer. I say at this point we just table the water, because if the sewer doesn't move forward, it sounds like they're not really interested in the water. So,
But there's already a petition that's been signed, and if the city does it, they're gonna do the sewer and the water at the same time, because then it would be a double assessment, wouldn't it? If they came back 10 years later and said, now we want the water, there's still labor involved there.
It's gonna be two different projects.
they'd still be assessed the same amount unless the assessment values change in 10 years, because they're being
I
assessed for it
understand what you're
right
saying,
now.
yeah.
So if the sewer doesn't go and they're really not interested in the water, if sewer's number one, and we determine from PPG standpoint that they're not interested in dealing with us on this, and the sewer's not gonna move forward, do we even worry about the water at that point? He's saying no.
They still have all signed the petition, so, although I see your point with tabling it.
The table has a different effect than hold. You have to have a certain specific date in the future to bring it back. Tabling it has to be resubmitted as a new item.
Okay, so let's hold it until
You can't
next
do
month
that.
when he comes
If
back
you
with
want to
his
hold it to next
reports.
month, you can do that.
Yeah.
Just from a legislative standpoint.
Let's hold it until next month when he comes back with his report from PPG, and then we'll make a determination. But if the sewer's not going forward, and it doesn't sound like they are interested in the water without the sewer, what's the point?
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think it's prudent to talk to PPG because they'll be assessed water as well. So that factors into that same conversation.
Their assessment's not nearly as impactful because it's not running across.
It does, yeah, it goes
east
along
side of the property.
13th Street, right, for the water?
Yeah, it's right on 13th and Elm, so it's just extending from the intersection west with water. So we're not running across.
Properties on either side.
Yeah, they own property on the west side, but it's just frontage.
They're still approaching $150,000 in water assessments. So I
They
think
own a
that's
lot of property.
Part
yes.
of the easement conversation.
Sounds like a plan.
Go
Good.
for-
So what is the next meeting date?
Well,
Sewers.
March 12th?
Yes.
All right. Gail will move to hold item number 10 till March.
Number 9.
This is the water, right?
Number 9.
Number
Yes.
9.
Number 9, sorry. Oh, yeah, sorry. Number 9. Item number 9. Water main West Elm Road petition to the March 12th Board of Public Works meeting.
Sigali seconds.
Roll call.
Gail, aye.
Marshall, I.
Guzekowski, aye.
Zarnaki, aye.
Sigali, aye.
Thank you. Alrighty, approve a underground facilities rehab project alternative design selection option 2B.
We have Tony Myers and Linda Moore from Jacobs here to give a little presentation on this project. Then we'll be open for questions after that.
You know if you can see the presentation. Okay, as Brian mentioned, I'm Tony Myers with Jacobs Engineering, formerly CH2M Hill and Linda Moore. We've been working on this project for about a year, and it is evaluating alternatives for the underground facilities rehabilitation project. And when we talk about underground facilities, we're really talking about 2 underground basins, and I'll show you where they are. The first one is the chlorine contact tank up in this area. It just looks like grass because it's underground. The second tank is underneath the high lift pump station that's located right about here. So that's what we're talking about when we say underground facilities. So the purpose of this presentation is to have you approve the alternative that we're recommending for this underground facilities project and move forward to design. So the 3 questions we want to answer for you are, why are we doing this project? What is the project? And how much does it cost? Probably have more questions, and that's fine, and you can ask questions during the presentation anytime you want.
Alrighty, thank you.
So let's start out, why are we doing this project? Number 1 reason, protect public health. We have a situation where this is the chlorine contact tank, and this brown represents dirt. So it's totally underground. The water inside the tank is drinking water. Final step in the treatment process. And the groundwater can be higher than the drinking water in the tank. That creates a situation where groundwater could potentially leak through cracks in the tank, contaminate the water. So public health is number 1. We know there's bacteria in the groundwater. Second reason is to meet regulations. Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources requires tanks like this. The bottom of the tank needs to be at least 2 feet above groundwater. We're like 20 feet below groundwater. So it's a big difference. They've mentioned this as an issue since 2008. What is the recommended project? We went through evaluating a number of alternatives and came up with 6. And I should mention that we worked with the City of Franklin and their engineering consultant throughout the whole process. So together we came up with alternatives and evaluated them. I'm not going to go through each alternative, but I generally grouped them into 3 categories. The first 2 are rehabilitation. So we would rehabilitate the underground tanks, try to get them to meet as much of the DNR requirements as possible, but they'd still be underground water. And then the same thing on the high lift pump station. That tank, we would try to get that as compliant as possible, but it'll still be underground water. So that's alternative 1.
to do that, the DNR said, okay, you can leave that tank under groundwater, but you gotta add another disinfection step downstream of that tank. So that adds to the cost. The second group of alternatives, we said, okay, let's build a new tank. Let's build it above the groundwater, all according to code, and let's build a new high lift pump station that's all compliant with code. So one is a rehab options, 2 is all new. The third one is a combination of new, so we'd put the tank above ground, and we would rehab the high lift pump station instead of build a new one. So it's kind of a combination of the two. So those were the 3 groups of alternatives in general. We recommended alternative 2, which would be to build a new above ground tank, new high lift pump station, and eliminate the problem. Now, the existing underground tank and the high lift pump station are about 50 years old. Some of the other facilities. So this is what it would look like on the site plan. This circle is the new above ground tank. This rectangle is a new pump station. And this other rectangle is we call it an intermediate pump station because we have to get water into this above ground tank. So those are the 3 major facilities that would be an alternative 2B. And what are the benefits? Why did we recommend this over the other ones? It had the best protection of public health. The new facilities have the longest service life. As I mentioned, some of those existing are 50 years old already. They're the easiest to operate and maintain because they'd be new and they could be laid out in a way that's easy to operate and maintain. Lowest risk to water service during construction. This was a big issue. The rehabilitating the existing pump station sounds like a good idea. Maybe we could save money. But to do that, you would have to take half of it offline and do half the rehab, and then take the other half offline and the other half of the rehab. During that time, you're at half capacity. You might not have enough capacity to serve water, especially in the summer. There's, it could be done, but there's a risk to that. So we wanted to factor in that risk. Best perception of water quality and service. Again, we eliminate that risk of construction. This alternative also has ultraviolet light disinfection incorporated into it, and that adds another barrier to things like cryptosporidium. When we had a public meeting on this project about 7 or 8 years ago, the public commented on that they like that extra protection. Most Lake Michigan water utilities have extra protection for things like cryptosporidium. And then finally, the costs of this alternative are in the same ballpark as the other alternatives. I'll show you those costs in a few slides. But those were the main reasons, and we didn't just say, okay, we're picking this one. We went through a very detailed process of evaluating the alternatives. We used these 5 criteria: water quality, operation and maintenance, constructability. We developed this with Franklin, and Franklin and Oak Creek independently ranked all 6 alternatives, and they came up with the same preferred alternative, this alternative 2B. This kind of shows you the blend of Franklin and Oak Creek's opinion on that, and Franklin's consultant. So we agreed on what the best way to go for.
Who is Franklin's consultant?
It was Baxter and Woodman. So, any other questions at this point?
Would the DNR even consider a rehabilitation of the underground tanks? To my, what was given to me is that wasn't even a consideration.
They don't like the alternative. They don't prefer it. But they said if you did it, you would have to add a whole another disinfection process downstream. And there's a bunch of other things. You have to double contain pipes and all that. So we factored all that into that alternative to rehabilitate.
Thank you.
And that's a good segue to cost, because all those things added cost. And these costs that I'm going to show you, they're big costs. They include a 30% contingency, because it's an estimate at this point. It's escalated 20% for future inflation. It's going to be 3, 4 years, 5 years before it gets done. And there's also 15% added on for engineering, design, and construction services.
But with that also being said, we've been planning on this for some time. It's not like this is brand new and it just broke and we need to build it and we haven't budgeted for it.
Correct. We have been planning for this since 2008.
Yeah. So there's funding for it.
Yes. With the 2024 capital budget, we have roughly $21 million set aside already for this project.
Thank you.
So here's the costs. The first two alternatives, A and B, this is the rehabilitation that we were talking about, and it's in the $40 to $60 million range, depending on what kind of disinfection you put downstream. The alternative 2B that we're recommending is about $45 million. So that's in the same ballpark. And if we did one of the alternative 3s, which would be a new above ground tank and rehabilitate the pump station, you'd save about 10%, which isn't a lot, but it doesn't factor in all the risk of doing that rehabilitation. And if we do 2B, you get a brand new pump station, and the old pump station doesn't get thrown away. It's right, you can use the building for other things. You can use it for electrical, you can use it for storage, you can use it for whatever you want. The pumps are going away, but the building is still going to be there. So I got another slide on explaining what this alternative looks like a little bit more. But any cost questions at this point?
Is the, sorry, does your cost include is the underground storage tank going to be left there, or is it be decommissioned or filled in?
The existing chlorine content tank would be remaining in place, kind of abandoned in place.
But I know, like over by the high school, we actually took that reservoir out of service and filled it in and eliminated it.
Yes. We don't have plans for that at this time, but we will reserve that space for anything in the future. Then that tank could be removed at that time. But structurally, it's sound. Right. We'll just leave it in place.
Is that tank ballasted? If you take the water out of it being underwater, will it pop out of the ground by itself?
Possibly. I mean, there is that potential.
So would you just leave it sit with
With
rainwater?
water in it?
Just leave it sit there? Or would it corrode and
Design people, like if you left the water in it and just closed off and there's no connection to the system, then it wouldn't, right?
Correct.
Yeah, there's ways, and you know, we talked about.
Or just pop some holes through the walls and the floor so it fills up with groundwater and it equilibrates, move that.
That's an option as well. And we talked
Are
about.
you going to hire on as a consultant?
Feel free.
Okay, but, so if you wanted to use that space though, at the water authority for something else, then the cost of that tank then would need to be being taken out, would need to be factored into that next project, and is that fair?
It is pushing that cost down the road.
Either way, it's not assumed in any of these options.
It is not assumed in any of these options.
That We talked about an option of getting rid of it during, you know, when you bid this project, say, give me an alternate cost to get rid of it. See what that cost is at the time.
And one of those things that is incorporated with that, the existing, or not the existing, but proposed intermediate pump station and high lift pump stations are going to be 20, 25 feet deep. So that's a big hole in the ground. That dirt has to go someplace. That would be a great opportunity to fill this area in, but it's, you got to move that dirt over here and pile it up, then have this construction done, and then excavate the tank, remove the tank, then move the dirt back in. So there is that possibility. There's an option. It was a cost. At this point, they're like, let's push that off till later. We just want to concern ourselves with the actual construction at this time.
With this tank being that deep beneath the groundwater, I wouldn't remove the tank because that is going to be a horrible nightmare trying to get it removed because you've got 20 feet of groundwater over the base of it. So you're going to be working some sort of dewatering system around it to create a dry hole to work in, and then to backfill. Backfilling the actual tank itself, the shell of it, absolutely. And then from there you can do whatever you want on top of it. But you could fill the shell, but I wouldn't try to remove that. That's why I asked. You know, if it's not ballasted and you let the water out, it may pop right out of the ground. Then you've got a big mess to deal with. So if you can open up the top of it and fill it while it's dry, one, it holds it down. Two, you can create a structural fill on it that you can then reuse.
We would never put another tank back in the ground, correct?
No. Right. DNR
So it
not
would
let
just
you.
be space that you could add on to the water authority or another building.
Yes.
Okay. So it could be filled in.
How far,
That makes
from a
sense.
storage capacity standpoint, Brian, how far? Because I know we originally looked at a plan 10 years ago that had 2 tanks. That was if Waukesha was in the picture, right? So our water service needs probably for what, 30, 40, 50 years do not foresee a second tank being required from a reservoir standpoint?
This is designed for a 2060 plan. So at this time, using the water studies that we have, we would not need a second tank.
This is the tank right here that we're talking about. And we have dewatered the site before in other construction, and with the clay soil, it's, you know, you can dewater it and you can demolish it and you can control the groundwater. You have to plan for it, but it can't be done. That's a good point. It's an option. If we get good bids and the prices come in lower than we expect, maybe you want to go forward with it at that time. So this is just a section view of what the project might look like. This is the intermediate pump station, the high lift pump station, and then this above ground tank. With the ultraviolet light disinfection, we can make the tank smaller because we don't need as much disinfection in the tank. The ultraviolet provides some disinfection. That was kind of the trade-off on cost. So any other questions? I'll just show you this quickly. This little star is where the facilities would be, kind of where the brown dirt was. This is Fifth Avenue, so to the east is the Lake Vista development. These buildings would not be much taller than the existing water plant. I don't think you would see a whole lot. These trees are way taller than the water plant. Any other questions?
I have, Tony, I've got a couple. One of them is Franklin. What happens if we don't have Franklin down the road? What would the cost be for this project as compared to having Franklin?
Yeah, and we looked at that in the study. It would be about $10 million less without Franklin, so we'd make everything smaller.
Number two, do we have any problem with the Public Service Commission approving this project? They've turned it down before. How are we looking at it now?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is Franklin was involved through this whole process, and they actually agreed that this was the best solution. I don't think we're gonna have that contention. And you never know what the Public Service Commission is gonna do, but this complies with all their requirements on water demand forecasts and alternatives evaluation.
Bob, I don't remember how long you've been here. Franklin actively opposed that option. So that's why it did not go through.
We fought with Franklin for a number of years.
Yeah, Fred, you've been along forever, but yeah, the last iteration of this 10 years ago, or nearly 10 years ago, they actively opposed.
But Fred, I don't think you were at the meeting when you guys presented that things are coming together very nicely with Franklin.
Well, they had a meeting last month. And I don't know how we came out on that one.
Yeah, I think the consensus, and Max, maybe you can share if you want to shed some light on that.
Yeah, certainly. So, we've been working with Franklin for past 6 months trying to get a new wholesale water agreement, and as part of that in our negotiations is that if we pursue with a new agreement, that they couldn't contest the PSC authorization for this project. So that's really the stipulation, and I think their mayor and administration have a lot of incentive to try and get a new wholesale water agreement. If I'm not mistaken, I believe both common councils are going to be seeing it in the next month to approve a term sheet to authorize us to go to contract or to drafting the actual contract.
A little concerned about Franklin yet.
Yeah, certainly, and changing the, administration and leadership is, certainly, they've taken a different position on how they want to proceed with the wholesale contract, which has been great. And, as Brian and the consultant said, they've been a part of this process for the last year plus in finding the right project and the alternative, and, they rank it the same. So, certainly it seems like we're in agreement as to what alternative both communities want to see, and then we're trying to protect ourselves as stipulation of that wholesale water agreement is they can't contest this project.
That was, we just, at the last meeting you were not at, they just gave us an update about all the work negotiations they've been having with Franklin.
So I see though the motion is to approve option 2B. Is option 2B have an iteration?
No, it does not.
So by approving the motion.
It has to be subject to the actually consummation of the Franklin contract, though, doesn't it, Max?
No, we're still obligated to serve Franklin with or without a contract. So
we're approving taking 2B to the PSC.
We're approving to take 2B to design.
Okay.
So the next step, we would go to council for a design contract with Jacobs for this work. And that's going to be a 12, 15-month process for design.
So more or less, we're agreeing here that 2B is the option that we should proceed with.
Yes.
Okay.
Should we be taking that before we actually have before we have agreed to councils, both councils agreed to actually a term sheet that will move toward a contract? That is premature.
But even without a contract, we still
need
have to
design.
serve them.
But the design is different if they're not here. You just said
But that puts us right back to where we were.
I know, but he just said the price tag is $10 million difference. If in fact, we're not going to serve Franklin. We're all assuming we're going to serve Franklin, but the black swan is
Would
something happens and you don't serve Franklin.
Right, but what you're saying, that would happen during the design phase. What we're deciding today only is, of the 6 options that have been presented, do we feel as a group that 2B is the best option to proceed forward with? It's not tying us into a capacity, a dollar amount, or anything else. That's part of the design phase, which is going to happen over the next 12 to 18 months, which should happen after the term sheet is worked out between the 2 councils and we're all in agreement that we're moving forward with Franklin. If something happens in that process, we still have to move forward with our process of the CT tank, but the design phase would then change to make a smaller CT tank for our use because Franklin's out.
Yeah, and maybe I can be a little bit clearer on timelines. I think, if I'm correct, when talking to Mike Sullivan, it's anticipated that both councils will be approving a term sheet at that March 5th meeting, March 6th meeting. So we're talking about 3 weeks from now, and certainly if the board feels more comfortable, maybe you say we prefer to proceed with alternative 2B, and we won't bring forward a design contract for the Common Council until Common Councils from both communities ratify the term sheet or something to that effect. Because
we could make a motion today.
I imagine it's going to
take.
take. I imagine it's going to take more than 3 weeks to get through a design contract, and you probably won't even have that to the council.
Wouldn't the
March
design
6th.
contract come to us first before council?
No, it'd have to go to council for
It's
approval.
from the size, I think.
Oh,
Because
okay.
it's probably a $1.5
Okay.
$2 million.
Just let's fix that. What's our limit here?
100,000, I think.
Well, 100,000, you can do it.
Yeah, I've tried that one already, Bob.
I think he likes his job. Well, yeah, certainly if you want to proceed, you can put in a stipulation. I think that we won't proceed with any design work until
I think that's prudent.
But again, that's really, Common Council's going to have to approve both the design contract and the term sheet anyway.
I mean, it's it's not likely, but I think it's prudent. I don't know what you people think.
Would agree.
That's fine.
Okay.
I guess the one question I would have, we're focusing on the capital cost for the installation. Has there been any analysis done on kind of the life cycle operation and maintenance costs? Because now you're bringing on an intermediate pump station and treatment. Those both typically carry a cost with them, just so that we're aware of what those ongoing annual maintenance and operation costs might
The
be.
TCO, right? The TCO.
Yeah, we do have estimates of that. The pumping costs aren't all that different because we're still going from point A to point B. The distribution system is the same. You actually might save a little because the pumps are way more efficient now than they were 50 years ago. And especially your 50-year-old pumps aren't all that efficient. The UV adds a little bit of extra money, but it's in like the $20,000 a year range. And in the big scheme of the water plant costs, that's not huge, but it is an extra amount of money.
I just think UV always has that stigma of being expensive, but in this circumstance it isn't. I just wanted that to be
Right.
upfront.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have estimates on those.
I recall in the last, sorry, Brian, in the last iteration, I recall there were multiple UV tubes. Are we using 1 or 2 here in this design?
There'd be 2 in this design.
So there's a redundancy built in.
Yes.
Yeah, DNR requires that.
Will this use a chlorine contact mechanism for besides the UV?
Yes, that's what the tank does.
Okay.
And it's the tank that we're looking at is a tank inside of a tank. That's one of the DNR requirements as well, so that we can take down that tank for inspections. So it's a better system than we have today.
But if I recall from the presentation, the tank's smaller because we put in the UV. We don't have to have as much tank with the UV in there. So it's less construction cost, right?
That's true.
I said, well, that reminds me. I know originally, 9 years ago, we were looking to increase our reservoir capacity on that site. Is that not the case anymore, or do we reevaluate that need?
No, based on the issues that we had the last time, this is about half the project that was done 9 years ago. That's one of the things we've downsized pretty much this entire project.
So, I mean, do we still have reservoir capacity capacity need? You need another tower somewhere to
No,
service the reservoir?
no, we have adequate reserves.
No, because wasn't that also considering the Waukesha expansion, which is
Yeah.
not
Yeah. Correct.
an issue?
At the time, we had to plan for
Alrighty.
Fine, right? It's only small money.
Well, this is no money today.
Yeah.
Well, this is technically authorizing you to go through design process.
This is not.
Just selecting the.
This is just selecting 2B. That's it. The design would all be at a later date
At council.
at council.
Because of the cost.
So this has no cost implications to it. It's just, do we agree that 2B is the best design to be pushing forward?
So then, do I need a subject to?
That's really up to the board and their comfort level, but again, I think certainly you want to inform the common council that this is the alternative that you want to see, but, you know, certainly, even if you decide, you know, this is the alternative you want to see, the common council could always say when the contract comes, you know, we're not designing for that level of project, and they can send it back.
I'm going to
So-
make it subject to anyways. Is that that'll be from a timing standpoint.
Yeah, and again, based off the timeline we have for, you know, the wholesale agreement and the term sheet, you know, we really think, you know, March is when it's going to be done. So.
All right, thanks, Max. All right, Gail then moves to have the Board of Public Works approve the underground facilities rehabilitation project alternative design selection option 2B, subject to the mutual consent of the Franklin and Oak Creek Common Councils term sheet agreements.
Good.
Gallo, second.
Roll call.
Gail, aye.
Marshall, I.
Guzikowski, aye.
Zarnecki, aye.
Sigali, aye.
Step 1.
It's only taken 15 years.
It's
Yes, it's a much needed step, so.
Alrighty. Number 11, consider a motion to enter into a contract with R.A. Smith for the design of wetland permitting, soil borings, and construction staking for the Audenschein Park water main extension in the amount of not to exceed $53,700. Is it Brian?
So this is extending our water main from a future Stonebrook development to Drexel Avenue through Audenschein Park. This will improve the fire flows and water quality through the Stonebrook development. This will also be dependent on Stonebrook moving forward. So their intent is to start construction this spring with the Stonebrook development. So our intent is to be ready to go with that project once that they have all their stuff in place. We are looking at R.A. Smith to do the design and permitting for this project, along with construction staking for $53,700.
Is that a typo for Grafe's estimate?
No, that is not a typo.
Okay, explain.
It is more of the wetland permitting costs included with it that R.A. Smith had in their proposals and their scope of services that they had, more in line with what we were looking for and wanted with the project, that I think they're more in touch with the actual cost of the project. Even though Grafe did submit a lesser cost bid.
You're worried about change orders.
Yes.
Okay.
Max or Brian, do you know, has this company has gotten all its approvals for the project? Have they pulled their permits and whatever they needed to actually activate their project? Are we certain they're moving forward?
I know they have all the entitlements and approvals, but I'm not sure if they've actually pulled
As far as building permits go, no, they have not started any
So
of that
you
work
said
yet.
this project is incumbent upon them actually moving forward, right?
Correct, yes.
That,
And the last
what, I
time,
mean, yeah.
last time I spoke with the developer's engineer, their intent was to start this spring. I have not seen anything or heard anything from them yet, but that was their intent.
So what is our intent with this? I mean, we're looking for a motion here to approve this, but so when do we expect R.A. Smith actually undertake initial efforts here and spend money on our behalf?
We'd be looking to have the money spent and design done by April. So the project would be ready to go. The other thing that is out there is the parking lot and driveway expansion of Amichine Park this year. So trying to get this done with that. And it's trying to get all these balls in the same row here so that we can get lined up for this project to move forward. I understand where you're at. That if you're putting this in for the development, it doesn't make sense to do all that work.
You'd generally leery about it unless they got a backhoe and a couple earth movers on site. I'm not spending money.
Yes.
Especially given the financing cost quandary that some of these people find themselves in right now.
Question is,
But there's multiple projects around this too. Parking lot and
yes.
what's that, Lisa?
if you put it in, doesn't that, wouldn't that, that parcel get assessed for it?
It's a city parcel. Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I mean, eventually someone will control that parcel and build on it. So we've already we budgeted for this, Brian, obviously.
Yes.
So. And from a timing standpoint, if they have well, obviously they went from a design and input and build and construction standpoint. I mean, they would be obviously looking at occupation until next year sometime.
Yeah, even with the approval now, we wouldn't be looking at construction starting out there till June or July.
That'd be one of those necessary. Thoughts?
My only thought would be is if we don't do it, we have to go back through and trench through the new pavement for the parking lot and the driveway, that we put a sign next to it that says, you know, Ken Gale.
Well, this real estate project would not be the first one that got canceled because things have changed dramatically.
But also having that there would make that property more.
Well, they're not paying for it either, so that's one thing.
Right, but say this development doesn't go through.
Yeah.
Something for another developer that would look at it and say, hey.
It's ready to go. Open the valve and.
The porous pavers that they're proposing at the Amichine parking lot, I really want to have this construction done and out of the way before they start putting down porous pavers. Contractors trying to be neat and tidy around them, but if they're tracking mud on the porous pavers, they're pretty much useless. So.
Alrighty, got a motion here, or?
You'll move that the board approve entering into contract with R.A. Smith for the design, soil borings, and construction staking at Shepherd Avenue. No, sorry.
Here. Love it.
Reading off the council report. Sorry. The board entered into contract with R.A. Smith for design, wetland permitting, soil borings, and construction staking with the Amichine Park water main extension in the amount not to exceed $53,700.
Barnett will second.
Roll call.
Gale, aye.
Marshall, aye.
Guzikowski, aye.
Zarnecki, aye.
Sigali, aye.
Me too.
number 12, consider into a motion to enter into a contract with R.A. Smith for design, soil borings, and construction staking for Shepherd Avenue water relay project in the amount not to exceed $38,500.
So hopefully these are going to get easier as we go along here. This is for redesign relay of the water along Shepherd Avenue from Putes up to Groveland. We've had 23 breaks on that main. We just had one here about a month ago as well. It's some of our oldest main we have in the system. It's 1958 cast iron. You know, Kurt can really appreciate the age of our mains. Our old stuff that we're trying to get rid of here. We've had a lot of issues with that main, and just with our corrosive soils, that it eats the pipe from the outside in. So this ductile and cast is not in good shape. We had an issue last year with the school. We have the Edgewood Elementary School that's there. Their lateral was fed off the hydrant lead. So the only way to fix their issue was to take the whole main out and fix that. We corrected that issue, so relaying this main will make that even better by running that directly out to the main. So that's one of our goals with this one, and just take care of an area that we've had issues with and was recommended in our master plan to replace.
Brian, would they do this project during the summer when there's no school?
Yes. So this is another one that we'd be looking for, having plans completed by April, have it out to bid, and then June, July, starting construction.
Thank you.
About the July 4th parade that go down Shepherd.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So we'd want to do that after July 4th to start this project.
Mm-hmm.
If it's construction going on during this year's parade, Groveland.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Any comments or questions? Motion.
Zarnecki will make a motion to enter into a contract with R.A. Smith for the design, soil borings, and construction staking for the Shepherd Avenue water main relay project in the amount not to exceed $38,500.
Marshall.
Roll call.
Hill, aye.
Marshall, aye.
Guzikowski, aye.
Zarnecki, aye.
Alrighty, number 13, consider into a motion to enter into a contract with Grafe for design, soil borings, and construction staking for the Garden Place Force Main Relay Project in the amount not to exceed $30,150.
So this is a contract with Grafe, replacing our force main, and this was brought to light. The next item is talking about the Clement Avenue force main. With the sewer inspections that they're doing on Clement, they found that this force main is about 50% blocked. These both were put in, both Clement and Garden Place were put in the early 80s, I think 83 and 84. So we're assuming that Garden Place is in the same condition as Clement. We did not inspect the force main at Garden Place, but we don't want to have any issues with this. We want to get them both taken care of today, as soon as we can. So that's what this design is for. Other part of Garden Place is that we'll be running fiber to the lift station. We've had numerous issues with this lift station in the past with communications. We still use a phone modem dial-up to communicate with this station. So there's existing fiber that we have that goes to the fire department, Station 2 on Chicago. So we'll extend from Chicago over to the lift station with this project as well. Any questions on that?
Nothing? Any questions here? No. There, any motion?
Marshall will move to enter into a contract with Grafe for the design, soil boarding, and construction staking for the Garden Place Force Main Relay Project in the amount not to exceed $30,150.
Zernicki will second.
Roll call.
Gale, aye.
Marshall, I.
Guzekowski, aye.
Zernicki, aye.
Alrighty, number 14, consider a motion to enter into a contract with Grafe for the design, soil borings, and construction staking for the Clement Force Main Relay Project in the amount not to exceed $35,600.
And this would be the same as Garden Place. It's just relaying the force main with a new main out there that is currently blocked, about 50%.
Pretty straightforward.
Yes.
Any comments or questions? Motion.
Marshall will move to enter into a contract with Gray for the design, soil borings, and construction for the Clement Force Main Relay Project in the amount not to exceed $35,600.
Sigali seconds.
Roll call.
Gale, aye.
Marshall, I.
Guzekowski, aye.
Zernicki, aye.
Sigali, aye.
Alrighty, number 15, enter into a contract with Gray for design of the water valve rehab project in the amount not to exceed $6,300.
So this is an interesting project. In 23, we listed 41 valves that were jammed open. And most of these are the packing in the valve is leaking. So we got it jammed open to stop the leak. We just haven't had the staff and time to get out to fix all these. So we looked at doing a project so that we could do the maintenance on these. We anticipate this is going to be definitely a very mobile project because these are all throughout the city. So different areas of the city, they'll contract have to excavate down to the valve, replace that packing, replace the bonnet bolts as well as long as we're there, and then restore the site. So it's going to be a very mobile site moving throughout the community, but take care of a lot of maintenance issues that we have not had the time to get to. Design costs you might notice on here are quite different. Grave proposed $6,300 to do the project. R.I. Smith was $33,900. The biggest difference was survey work and permitting time. So R.I. Smith was proposing to come out and do survey for each location. Grafe is looking at doing basically an aerial survey of the site and creating the traffic control plan and manual just from that instead of spending the time to come out. Feel that is an adequate way to proceed with these. We know where the valves are. We know the condition of the roadway that's around them. It's just a matter of getting in and doing the work. It's going to be a very mobile, fluid project.
Brian, remind me, are these typically in roadways, terrace areas?
These are all in roadways.
So, I'm not sure if any of them interlapped with current or foreseen road rehab projects, but we're obviously going to take that into account.
Yes, we definitely coordinate with any projects we have upcoming with the city.
And we trust them for who's managing the restoration. Typically, when you're punching holes in kind of blacktop or concrete, you're just creating
We'd have inspector on site for this work. We'd also be working with the city to have whoever they want to have out there to monitor the pavement and make sure that's restored, and they're signing off on the roadway as well.
So, I guess what is the scope?
The main scope is just maintenance.
For $6,300.
Oh, for Grafe. They are putting together the spec book, the plans that will show the details for what we want them to do, and then permitting. We have state and county permits that are going to be needed for this, so that's their general scope.
I would assume traffic control would be
Traffic control plans, that'll be all part of their plan set that they're putting together. That's going to be a generic traffic control plan, and here's our typical for detour, not detour, but work zone for each hydrant or each valve that we have, and how do we get traffic around them.
We did a capital budget,
Correct.
right? Line
Yes.
item for this.
Yes.
It was like 10 grand a pop, I think.
Yes. Per valve, yeah.
I guess I'm just, you got 41 valves throughout the city. Are they figuring just one permit for all the valve locations that they're going to be submitting for? Or are they going to be doing a permit for each location?
They don't have to do a permit for the city valves.
Okay.
It's just a permit for the ones that are on the county and
County
state.
highway.
Yep.
Okay.
And I think there's 3 of them that fall into county and state highway.
So they would have to
3
do
permits.
3 separate permits for those.
Yes.
And these are like, what, a couple hours a piece? Couple days? What?
For the actual work that they're doing, the longest time frame is going to be excavating to get to the valve.
We're not talking about the actual work at this.
No.
No, yeah.
No.
That's the design.
Yeah, but I would expect them to be able to get to a
Because
couple
they all have a
days day.
manhole cover, right? A little, we'll cover it over the top of them
Yeah,
anyway?
little valve cover.
So they know exactly where they are?
Yes.
You take the 6,300 divided by 41 valves, it's $153 per valve for design. So a full spec book, permitting for at least 3 of them, and then, I mean, yeah, you can say generic traffic control plans, but depending on the road, it's gonna, there should be several generic plans. I'm just concerned that 6,300 is a low ball.
Yeah, they will have
Is it
a
a lump
lot.
sum? Is it a lump sum?
No.
That they're time and materials?
Time and material not to exceed.
I'd float lump sum in front of them and see if they bite on it. See how confident they are in their $6,300 bid. Because that just seems stupid low.
Well, Grafe is Grafe. I mean, right? It isn't like the movie. Right?
Yeah.
They've been around. So,
So?
I know, you'd assume $6,300 a piece, right? But, or something.
Well,
no.
Not for the design
Not for the design.
But,
portion of it.
yeah, I understand where you're coming from. But if they
But,
submitted the bid,
Figure, billing rates nowadays for professionals are $130 to $170 an hour. Easy.
Yeah.
So, when you're talking $153 per valve, you can also say you're looking at less than 40 hours total to do the design for these 41 valves. All that he talked about, the spec book, the permitting, and the traffic control. I don't know. To me, it seems low. And I'd hate for us to get into, we award it and then they're coming back for change order. If they're so confident with their 6,300 that they're doing a not to exceed, okay, fine, then do a lump sum. And you're stuck with your 6,300. It's their risk then, not ours.
but their change order would have to justify extraordinary costs.
Yes.
Unanticipated costs.
And my proposal of how they were doing this work is we would provide them with a map of the locations of the valves. So they're looking at, we've got all the locations, we're not doing any survey work on that. It's a matter of what's our detail for the valve. So if 39 of these are all the same, it takes that $150 per valve kind of out of the equation. I've got one detail. Those are all taken care of. All I really need is my permit for the state and county and a pretty detailed sheet and traffic control that should pretty much be the same for all of them. So.
You feel confident that you're going to fight them on potential change orders? I'm fine with it. It seems to me that not that R.A. Smith is on target at $33,000, but 6,300 just seems.
It seems very, very low.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's my 2 cents.
Are the change orders less than $33,000?
If they're bidding 6,300.
It isn't sounded like they haven't dinged us for something else, right? Somewhere else. All right, I trust you're gonna manage that process, Brian, so. that's all you.
Motion on 15?
Zernicki will make a motion to enter into a contract with Grafe for the design for the water main rehabilitation project in the amount not to exceed $6,300.
Marshall will second.
Roll call.
Bill, aye.
Marshall, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Zernicki, aye.
Alrighty, number 16, consider a motion to enter into an agreement with Lab Furniture and Fume Hoods to complete a lab renovation and upgrade not to exceed $57,553. Brian?
So this is a maintenance project that we have at the treatment plant to take care of our lab. It is in need of some upgrades. The cabinets are rusting away that we have down there currently. So this will take care of those issues that we have and replace the cabinets and get everything back up to code for our lab.
Heard any questions? That sound reasonable?
Lab equipment is expensive. I'm glad you guys did some due diligence. It looks like you had other quotes that were nearly twice as much.
Yes.
Motion then.
Bill move, to enter an agreement with the Lab Furniture and Fume Hoods to complete the lab renovation upgrade at a cost of $57,553.
Marshall will second.
Roll call.
Bill, aye.
Marshall, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Zernicki, aye.
All right. Number 17. Consider a motion to enter into to approve a Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District customer rates for 2024.
So this is our sewer rates. We get these numbers from MMSD for what they're charging the customers. We take a look at them. MMSD had a 12% increase this year. These numbers are pretty much a pass-through cost for us. The rate we're charging is what MMSD charges us. We are only doing a 7% adjustment to our rates this year based on where we've been in the past and where we see these things kind of going in the future. So we're not going up to that 12% that MMSD is charging. We're only doing a 7%. Part of that is just to decrease the amount of money that the residents are going to have to spend on this. We feel that we've got the budget and the capacity that'll be a safe number for us. That takes care of the regular rates. The fixed rate charges, they do not see the adjustment, so they will get the 12% on the fixed rate customers. That's a small group of customers that we have. These are ones that don't have water, so they're just charged for sewer. And it's a little deceiving between the two charts as well. The fixed rate customers are shown for annual cost, or sorry, quarterly cost. So the annual is $303, excuse me. That includes both the metro and local costs for the fixed rate, which is very comparable to what the average home costs are.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions or comments?
They justified the, 30-cent increase on their flow rate was justified by what?
From
You see, 165 1,000 to 195 1,000 for at least what they had proposed.
that was just from MMSD.
Well, obviously they were looking to drive that through to us, but why?
That I don't know why they're driving that. That was just the number that they gave us.
I understand it, it's kind of a pass-through, but.
Yep.
Alrighty, we need a motion on 17.
Marshall will move to approve the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District customer rates for 2024.
Segale seconds.
Roll call.
Gale, aye.
Marshall, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Zarnicki, aye.
Segale, aye.
Alrighty, number 18, consider a motion to approve utility vouchers in the amount of $1,014,349.82. Any comments or questions on that one? Motion.
I will move, sorry, Kurt.
Zarnicki will make a motion to approve utility vouchers in the amount of $1,014,349.82.
Marshall will second.
Roll call.
Gale, aye.
Marshall, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Zarnicki, aye.
Segale, aye.
Alrighty, 19, administrative and operational reports. Did anyone have any questions on any of that stuff?
The water main break on Putes, wasn't there one at that same location like 2 years ago?
Pretty close to it, yes.
Because I remember the same big hole.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Is that like somewhere along the lines of needing to be replaced?
The crew was asking me that question too, and no, it was
Okay.
not on the list there. When they did get down to it, there was a pretty good hole on that one, and as they're cleaning the rust off the pipe to put the clamp on it, they cleaned off enough and exposed another hole, so we ended up with 2 clamps going on it. So it's something to definitely keep in our vision of
You'll be back.
a pipe to be over there. Yes.
Okay.
It is 24-inch ductile iron pipe, so that would be a spendy fix. Yes.
The monthly peak day, was that because of that leak, Brian? Or it seems high for a winter day?
It does seem very high for that day. Don't believe it was because of the main break. The break was on the 24th and the high was on the 21st, so that was before that.
Like somewhere else we don't know about, or what?
It could have been a nice sunny day and everybody's out washing their cars. Get a lot of those. Winter peaks and everybody's out washing cars.
Car washes, they recycle their water or not?
The new ones do, yes.
Over
$1.5
the
million.
PP.
Oh, yeah. All right, it's on him.
Alrighty, traffic and safety, there's nothing. So, well, motion to adjourn.
Segale moves to adjourn.
Marshall will second.
Roll call.
Gale, aye.
Marshall, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Zarnicki, aye.
Segale, aye.